everyone. My name is Deborah Chen, and I'm a program manager on the Visual Studio Diagnostics team. And today, I'm going to tell you about a new feature in Visual Studio 2017 15.5 for IntelliTrace, which we designed to help save you time in your day-to-day debugging. How many times when you've been debugging have you run into the situation where you set a breakpoint, you start stepping, and then you accidentally take one step too far and you just want to go back and see what the state of the application was at the previous step? Or you set a breakpoint, you started stepping, and then you suddenly see a variable change in an unexpected way, and you just want to go back and see what the previous value was. Well, now, with the new IntelliTrace Step Back feature in the latest release of Visual Studio 2017, you can. With IntelliTrace Step Back, IntelliTrace can now automatically take a snapshot of your application on each breakpoint and step, enabling you to quickly go back to a point in the past and view the state of your application as it was then. Once at a snapshot that you're looking at in the past, you can view the state of your call stack, locals, watch window, data tips, and even do expression evaluation. So with this new feature, instead of having to restart debugging or somehow reproduce your debugging state or recreate it, you can quickly go back to the point in time that you need, saving you time while debugging. Now, before I go to the demo, I should note that this is a feature for IntelliTrace, which means that it's for Visual Studio Enterprise Edition only, and it's currently only supported for debugging .NET applications. Let's go to the demo. So the first thing I'm going to do is enable the feature by going to Tools, Options, IntelliTrace Settings, and making sure that I've selected IntelliTrace Events and Snapshots. So this is the new mode that we've added for this feature. Now I'm going to hit F5 to start running and debugging my application. This is an ASP.NET web application called My Shuttle, and it lists members of our PM diagnostics team that are drivers who are willing and able to shuttle and drive people around as needed. Unfortunately, it looks like once I've hit my home page that none of the drivers are actually showing up. So let's go ahead and debug this inside Visual Studio. The first thing I want to do is set a breakpoint at the line of code that I think might be causing the problem. I know there's a method called getBestDrivers, which creates a new driver manager object that takes in a list of drivers. It does some filtering operation on them here to trim out the people who don't have a rating that's high enough, and then it sorts them and then finally returns them to the view. So I'll set a breakpoint here, and I'm going to refresh the page just to see if that gets hit. It does get hit, so I can start debugging from here. And before I start stepping, it looks like all the action in this method is really happening inside this mDriver manager object. So I'll go ahead and set a watch for that so I can pay extra attention to it. All right, now I'm going to take a step. So I'll use F10 or step over. And now I want you to notice that in the Diagnostic Tools window, next to the breakpoint we were just at, this camera icon has appeared, indicating that IntelliTrace has automatically taken a snapshot at that point in time. And if I go ahead and take another step, I'll see that a camera icon also appeared next to the step that I had just stepped over. So that's the snapshot there again. Now that I'm at line 42, I can expand out and see what was happening inside my driver manager object. Looks like there's a best drivers object, and if I take another step, it looks like suddenly all the best drivers that were previously populated here have now disappeared. Let me take a look at what was happening inside this trim drivers with low ratings method, and look at the definition, and it looks like it's taking in a rating threshold and then filtering out the people who don't meet that rating threshold. So if I go back to where I was debugging, what I really want to know is what were the ratings of the drivers inside the best drivers object. Now, right now, this object is blank and there's no data in here. And if I wanted to recreate and get back to the state, I might have to normally hit continue, refresh the page, hit the breakpoint again, and then try to step more carefully. Or I might just decide to throw it all away, restart debugging, and step to get to here again. But now, with the new IntelliTrace Step Back feature released in the latest version of Visual Studio 2017, I'm able to quickly step back and view a snapshot of my application at that previous point in time that I'm interested in. So to do that, I'm going to use the new step backward icon here that we've put next to the debugging buttons and icons that you know and love. And by just one click of the step backward button, I'm now at the previous line of code in historical debugging mode. And now I can view all the data in this snapshot. So while in this historical debugging mode, I can look at the data in the call stack, my locals window. I can expand out this object, see all the data that was collected, and even expand out the driver manager object here, see all the data here. If you like data tips, I can also hover over the objects with data tips and then see the data there as well. And I'm going to continue using the watch window just for this demo. So now I have all the best drivers here, and I really want to answer the question, what ratings do these drivers have? Expanding out the first driver, I see that this driver had a rating of 5. And if I expand out the next one, I see they had a rating of 2. And it's pretty tedious to expand out all the drivers one by one. So I'm going to take a shortcut and use the immediate window to write an expression that tells me what the highest rating anyone had was. So this expression will do that. It's being evaluated. And it looks like the highest rating any individual driver had was actually 5. So the bug here is that initially we were filtering out to people who had a rating of 10, but now it turns out the highest rating anyone had was 5. So now that I've figured out what was the problem, I can go ahead and change my rating threshold. So I'll remove my breakpoint, go up to the top and set my rating threshold to 5. And now run my application again and see if the drivers appear. And now, as expected, the drivers are all showing up on this page. So to sum it all up, with a new IntelliTrace Step Back feature, I was able to quickly debug and diagnose an issue in my application, all without having to restart debugging or recreate my debugging state. I was able to quickly step back to a previous point in time and view a high fidelity version of the data in my locals, call stack, watch window, and even data tips, and even do expression evaluation. We hope this feature helps you out in your day-to-day debugging, so please try it out by downloading the latest version of Visual Studio 2017, and you can learn more about our feature at akka.ms/stepback. And finally, if you're interested in learning more about the great new features released in the latest version of Visual Studio 2017, feel free to check out more videos on Channel 9.